Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our very first Symbiosis Weekend event. And today we are very happy to have Annabel Delgado here to speak to us about her journey. So Annabel, take it away.
Thank you. Okay, thanks everybody for being here and supporting me. That means a lot. It takes a village. So before I start, I want to thank Dorothy for visualizing this complex international interactive project. It's really mind-boggling to me. And for managing to orchestrate it throughout all these different time zones. And for inviting me to participate in this wonderful journey. I want to thank Marina Soria and Yves Leterme for recommending me and for their support and friendship. Susan Clark for introducing and putting Symbiosis in my universe. And it was 2 weeks after I started watching all the old videos that Dorothy calls me. So I sort of said, oh, Susan, you made this happen for me because you put it out there. Brody Neuschwander, who's always answers my pesky emails and takes time to read them and critique my work and invariably pushes me out of my comfort zone. Julie Wildman, who was my first teacher to expand the scope of the calligraphy world and who's always willing to lend a hand when called upon. My architect friends, Sylvia Costa, Enrique Macia, and Derek Smith, for their critiques when doing the installation. And Mark Harrington, my husband, whom he always complains about my spending too much time doing calligraphy. He is indeed my biggest supporter, my sounding board, and my technical consultant. Of course, thanks to our mentor, Andrea Wunderlich, who stood on the sidelines and let each of us run in different directions, but made sure that we remain true to ourselves and to what we wanted to accomplish. Maki and Irene, my fellow mentees, it was great to share this year with both of you. I admire and respect your talent, dedication, and willingness to explore. I want to thank Laura Brady, who is a singer whose song you will hear in the video at the end of the presentation, and she gave me permission to do so. So I will begin. My name is Annabel Delgado. Can you see my screen moving now? Yes, okay. I was born in Cuba, grew up in Venezuela, and moved to the US where I finished architecture school. I married another architect and had 2 kids who are now 32 and 30. I learned that good architecture transcends the physical world and touches our souls. The study of yoga further blurred the notion between the physical, emotional, and spiritual worlds. To me, the world is composed of layers. Some are obvious and some are not. Some are experiences only we feel. And this is what I aim to explore through my calligraphic work. So our topic was the Book of Hours. The name of my work is called 7 Bloods. Book of Hours are medieval manuscripts depicting holy moments throughout the calendar year in which we would celebrate, be days of reflection. So they were sort of broke up the year in special moments that were repeated. And then I went into looking what books of hours. I had actually never heard of Book of Hours, so I went looking to see what would be inspiring about them and what would resonate with me. So this is a scroll based on the chronology of popes and emperors after Christ. These were some medieval illustrations which I was drawn to. The depiction of water is always something that has interested me. And even though I admire the illuminated manuscripts, I knew I was never going to be able to achieve something like this. This is from Carl Jung Red's book, in which it's really a journal about his dreams and these wild drawings that he dreamt of. And I found that really fascinating. And this is Dante, La Commedia, with a heavily corrected text, making it seem like a personal journal. So wondering what books of ours means to me, make me think about the energy embedded in objects. This is an oreo, which is a granary from Galicia. It's a typical building in which grain is kept, and it has, oops, sorry, hold on. It has a pagan obelisk on one side and a Christian cross on the other to protect the grains. So that sort of transition from being something so utilitarian as a building to the wishing that these two symbols imply are something that I'm drawn to. This is the Angel Falls in Venezuela, and to me, it's the most magical place in the world that I've visited. It's really not about just a geographic formation, but it has an energy that is, it's really amazing. And this is called Abuela Cueca, and it was a rock from the Pemon Indians in Venezuela that was taken by Germans, and then it was returned to them because it was one of their sacred items. So they're celebrating the return of the rock. So growing up, my sister would give me lucky pencils when I had a test. Since then, some objects acquire magical properties representing the thoughts and wishes which was with which they were obtained. Throughout my house, I have a series of altars or random groupings of objects that are meaningful to me. Some are religious in nature, but most are not. There's pre-Columbian goddesses, Hindu deities, Christian saints. This is Pachapapa. This is Pachamama. This is a Buddha. This is actually a cross from one of the Oreos in Spain. And this is the god of corn from Guatemala. African sculptures, Buddhas, bells, lenses, spheres, vessels, sculptures, feathers, rocks. They're all grouped together to become my altars. So to me, they represent a universal magic, something unwavering that connects all humanity. These objects serve as reminders of things that are and memories that are meaningful. So these objects to me are the equivalent of the book of hours. They're, throughout my house, and they give me pause and they give me appreciation. My awareness of them shifts with my mood, but they become anchors in time of need. So whenever I'm stressed, like now I'm looking at them and saying, okay, they're there cheering me on. They're my lucky pencils. And they're random things. This was a game that I transformed, an African game that I transformed into a candle holder. And this is one of my most precious possessions. If you can see, this nativity set my son made when he was, 4 or 5 years old, and it's made out of toilet paper rolls. And every year I take it out for Christmas, and it's just amazing to me. And you can see the drawings of the faces of this interpretation, his view of what the nativity scene was. And then this brings me to more weirdness. And today happens to be the 20th anniversary of my mom's passing, and this is why I picked this date. And this bird showed up in my yard the day after my mom passed. And it stayed there for like a week, and it just let us come close to it. I took this picture and we're standing like 3 feet away from him or her. And I thought, okay, this is a sign from my mom that she's okay, or I don't really know what the sign means, but it made me feel her presence. And then these macaws started, when my mother-in-law passed away like 5 years ago, this flock of macaws started coming through the yard, and I put feeders out and they started coming. So I trained the macaws to come, and to me, they're just magical moments also throughout my day. And this is the macaws in one of my feeders. And they're magnificent. And then this is my nephew, Brian, who was 39 and passed away in March this year. And these macaws just happened to be outside my window, outside one of my altars. And I thought, oh my God, these symbols keep happening around in my life. And that to me is just really touching. So I don't know if you can see the macaws are there in the tree behind my altar, one of my altars. So thinking of my book of hours made me think of myself in the basis of past, present, and future. It made me delve into the circumstances that determine who I am. This is my great-grandmother. Now, this is my great-grandmother, my grandfather's mother in Galicia. And you'll see that my grandfather takes a central role in my first project. So I look at my ethnicity and was surprised to see that I was from all over the place. Mostly Spain and mostly European, but then I have Northern Africa and I have indigenous Cuban, which I was really excited about. So conceptually, I wanted this work to be like an overlapping tapestry, bringing all these items together. And I wanted it to be something that you could see that was fragmented enough that you could see front and back at the same time. And I had this little piece of paper that was gold on one side and red on the other. And it allowed me to sort of conceptualize what I wanted this book to be. So based on my DNA, I started generating a map, including the 7 ethnic areas of my background. And that's why it's called 7 Bloods. Although mostly Spanish and Portuguese, there's Basque, French, North African, Irish, and Native Cuban. The Spanish and Native Cuban is really of particular importance because they're culturally part of who I am. So the project is a 2-sided 20-panel collage that folds into a meandering book and unfolds into random 3-dimensional arrangements representing the melting pot of my background. So I found pages from an encyclopedia from the turn of the century and used the pictures of the maps. These are fragments of it. And I was wanting to make a collage. Let me back up, because I started making a collage that would become the basis for this book. So these are the stretch panels and boards, and that's the beginning of the map. And I started exploring with things were going to be overlap. At this point, I have no idea what I'm doing. I just, the whole year has been just an exploration. I never knew where things were going to be leading to. So most of my background, the majority is from Europe, this side of the map. but my current life has happened in this continent, in Cuba, in Venezuela, and in the US. So this transatlantic gap jump was really made by my grandfather, my maternal grandfather, who left his village in Spain in 1902 at age 14. And there's a story that my late cousin wrote about the significance of my grandfather leaving his village and the importance it had in his grandmother's view, which happened to be the saddest day of his life when her little brother left Spain. And my grandfather became a self-made man, and it was the center of his, as well as his sister's family. He was legendary. He became legendary back in the village in Spain, where he built a house for his mother and sister, sponsored his sister's butcher shop, and helped build a school for the village. So this story, nosotros los Abelenda, us the Abelenda, Abelenda was his last name, became the story that would tie the map from Europe to America. So this is me writing in the panels. And this is the map being made. So it's starting the story and going from one side of the Atlantic to the other. And this is the map finished. So reminiscing of my grandfather brought memories of Gallego songs that he used to sing. And as well as Cuban poems that my father used to read to me. So I figured, okay, what can I do to these collages to make them mine, other than telling my story? So I learned a new technique, which is what I want to explain tomorrow in my scroll class, with water strength papers and acrylic inks. And what I liked about it is the transparency of this medium, which can overlap and then just tell another layer of meanings to the work. So here I'm testing transparencies of how these colored papers can overlap over the images. And here I'm testing how these color papers can become waves in overlapping images of my altars. And then here also test of how to overlay written words, because it's really a calligraphy project. And so I knew I wanted the front to be about Spain. And these are samples of where the book first started. It's the panels of the map, random images of the altars throughout. And here I'm testing just different papers that I had in the house and different writing styles and images that I thought should be incorporated, and see where this wanted to go. And this took quite a long time because I really have no clue. It's not something I had done before. It's not something I had seen done before. It was just something I was experimenting to do. This is testing. I started first doing a more traditional Gothic writing, black letter. And Andrea said, well, what does that have to do with you? And it's true, it doesn't. It's just that all the books of ours had that kind of lettering. So I figured, okay, how do I make that lettering mine? And so I started experimenting with where this could go. And this has to do with the binding. Said, okay, I'm going to have all these fragments, and how are these all going to come together? So I found this ribbon, and I stained it with Cuban coffee. And at first I was going to do grommets to bind the edges of the panels. But I found that because it was two side-by-side panels, that was really not necessary to do. So the back side of the panel is dedicated to Cuba, where I was born. My parents were political activists. They escaped Cuba when I was 18 months old and went to Venezuela. My parents assumed that it was a temporary situation, but they would never return to Cuba. Growing up, my Sundays were spent in Cuban school, learning Cuban history and poetry, and that was the backbone of my childhood. So the back panel has 3 poems, including an Afro-Cuban lullaby that my father used to read to me. The other 2 are by Jose Marti, who's a famous Cuban poet. And I grew up reciting and singing those poems in this Cuban school performances. So this is me starting the back side. This is La Edad de Oro. It's a compilation of work by Jose Marti. And there is a special poem, Los Zapaticos de Rosa, that was really the epitome of my childhood. So this is front and back starting to want to come together. The front panel was really busy. It had the oreo, it had the altars. So I wanted the back to sort of complement this, and since they were going to be seen together. So these are numerous studies, and this is oriented in different ways. This is me in the yard, just putting random pieces of things together, and the scale of this is growing out of control. This is me writing in the front panel. And this is, again, images of where I want these panels to go and how they're going to relate to each other. Because even though there are 2 aspects of my life, they need to be cohesive. Oh no. This thing stopped working. Oh, there. So this is the panels, and then you can sort of gauge, my shoes are here. You can sort of gauge the size that this is taking. And then me stepping back to see how they fit together. And this is more explorations of the same, what writing goes where, how it overlaps. And this is the beginning of the back panel, and this is an Afro-Cuban lullaby that my grandfather would read to me. This is one word from that lullaby that was a nickname that my father used for me. And I was not happy with the centering of the map and how this was working. So this here is experimenting what keyword is going to link these panels, the fragments. I'm thinking for things that could be common ground linking the individual parts of the puzzle. This is the name of the village where my grandfather was born. This is my grandfather's last name. And this is me writing more poems and overlapping the different techniques, overlapping the poem papers with the altars, with the collage papers. So this is also experiments on the back panel. And this is going a little deeper into the, I label the percentages of my DNA in the different Europe, in the different countries. So these are little mock-ups of my book. Once I had the rough layout of how things were going to lay out, how I wanted to cut up the book, so how it would open or how it would close. And I wanted it to have the possibility of seeing both sides at the same time. And the fact that it could stand on the side made it somewhat architectural, which of course resonates with me. So this is me going back to seeing how many, and this is all over the place, but this is how I work. There's nothing linear about my process at all. It's like this thing calls my attention and then I take off and, okay, let me look from a different perspective. And so I'm going back and forth the whole time trying to make sense of where I want to go. So ultimately I added another panel. So it's 5 columns across. The back became more stretched out and the front map became more centered. And then this is me, because that was taking me nowhere. And Andrea said, okay, just commit to it, cut the panels and start bounding. And so this is me, started cutting the panels and starting to bind the book and gluing, excuse me, front and back to my ribbons. And this is the ribbon I used. And in order for, as I said, I dyed it with Cuban coffee because I wanted it to look old, because the pages I was using in the book were old books. And I used nail polish to make the edges not fray so that this thing wouldn't come apart. And this is the front panel, finished. And this is the back side, finished. So here is the Afro-Cuban poem. Here are my altars. Here is one of Jose Marti's songs. And this is poems, and this is another one. And then I'm going to do a sequence. This is the book closed. And this is how it opens. So this is the first the first side completed. And then it starts to overlap. So this panel went over this one. And this is where it comes much more interesting to me, in which, you know, it's not something that was premeditated, it's just something that is happening. And I love this interaction of panels that don't necessarily make sense, but I find them more provocative or thought-provoking. So this is the book slowly trying to flip to the backside. And this is the backside completed. And this, once it's open, these pages are stiff enough that it can become vertical. And they can start becoming 3-dimensional. And they start having the random shapes that I wanted them to have. So these are all views from above and me holding the book on the floor. So that brings me to the present. I was visualizing this as an installation in which the past became the center element and the present became a room surrounding it. And in my beginning view, it was going to be 3 panels. And I picked disciplines about my adult life, which were architecture, yoga, and calligraphy. So these were my original concepts of what I thought the present was going to be. And I thought, okay, the book's going to sit in the middle and these panels are going to be the backdrop. So it's sort of like a spinal cord and the skin. So this is me in the yard. These are 3 sheets of Kozo panels. And I figured, okay, I want my footsteps to be part of these panels because it's my journey. So it's, it's troublesome because my feet kept getting stuck. You can see my foot stuck there and I can't lift it up. And I'm trying not to lose my balance because I don't want to ruin the paper. But in the end, it doesn't matter even if the paper's ruined, it's just, it's part of the process. So this is one of the panels. The panels are big and my office is not big at all. So I just take over the whole house all the time and go outside, go inside, and try to see how these things really fit together. So here I'm starting to, the Kozo work, of course, is from Brody's Kozo class, in which you do layers of latex paint or oil-based paint, and you write, and then you paint in the back, and the paint acts like a resist. Footprints as well act like resist. You see the footprint, the blue doesn't go past it. And I was trying to play here with my colored papers, with the wet strength color papers. And I spent a lot of time doing this because I'm waiting for the work to tell me where it wants to go. I have no clue where any of this goes. And you can see here in one of the Kozo panels, what's really fun about this paper is you can wet it and it sticks to whatever surface, and then it just peels it off. And the Kozo, it gets stretched when it's wet, if you see in the corner of that painting. Here I have letters. I found these letters from before my parents left Cuba to after they left Cuba and were in Venezuela, and their correspondence to my grandparents in Spain, where they were with my sister and cousin, waiting for Cuba to be free again so they could return. So I copied letters that were pertinent to my life to be part of this work. And these are, and then I also incorporated, of course, sketches from architecture school and yoga studies collaged into the panels. So here you can start seeing the layering that's starting to happen. This is the footprint and the writing and the layers overlapped and the painted paper overlapped on top of that. So these are more details. And some papers, it was become geometric shapes. I figured that there was sort of a little too all over the place, so I wanted something to bring them back and hold them together. And this is just the process. And this is me overlapping. You can see the water dripping. This is just the water. And also I want to point out what a mess my office is. And my office is always a mess. It's like my brain. It just, there's all these things happening at the same time, and I can't get away with it. And actually, Patty, my partner, is here, who was super organized, and I want to be her in my next life. And every time I clean my office, it's like, okay, I want to be Patty like this moment so I can focus my thoughts a little bit more. So this is me sticking with water these papers on pages and just keep adding layers to, and you can see here, I have no idea where it's going yet. And more detailed shots so you can see all the layers that are happening. And these are fragments of some of the papers. This is my thesis project from architecture school. Just random sketches. And this is writing done before is the white, writing done after is the black. And there's really no limit to where any of this goes. So it just, at some point you just stop. I said, okay, that's it. So I thought this was going to be what the project was going to be. And this was my conceptual idea of where I thought this would go. This is, of course, a little mock-up book of the in front of the panels in the background. But then these panels kept happening. I said, no, I think I need more panels. I think calligraphy needs to be, I'm sorry, this came from me. These were the yoga panels. Yoga needs to be a little more present in this. So these words are yogic, vikalpa, and the mantras and things that are very part of my life started appearing in different Kozo panels. And of course, more footprints, because that was still part of my journey. And again, I apologize for the lack of linearity, but this is me. So, and then this is trying to make sense of all these disparate parts. And then came more panels. This is this courage was part of the yoga panels, but then this calligraphic marks and written words were the calligraphy panels. So now I have at this point, I think 8 panels. So that is sort of the overall within the 8 panels. I said they're not necessarily cohesive, nor was the jump from architecture to yoga to calligraphy that has inspired my adult life. They all sort of happen at the same time and overlap. And this is me testing the panels inside the space, seeing, I wasn't totally happy with how things were going. I darkened the contrast, and I'm trying to make them individual, but then I'm trying to make them cohesive as well. So that's quite a challenge. And then 3 more panels came up. And this says ancestral journey, ancestral spirits, migratory journey, and 6 bloods. And these are close-ups. So I'm going to go through this 11 panels. This is sort of the introductions. This is 7 bloods, and it says 7 bloods comprise my DNA, 6 countries, 3 continents, 9 seas, and 1 ocean. This is ancestral spirits, migratory journeys, memories, transcending physical realm. That's an ode to architecture. And this is transcending physical realm 2. And they were intended to represent this box that was defined, that was broken into this transcending energy. This is the stories. Discernment. This is the yoga panels with Vikalpa and Dharma. Courage. That's another yoga panel. This is calligraphy panel. It's the written words, calligraphic marks. And then this leads me to the installation. And I'm going to show you some of these from the beginning images. And then this is the installation with the panels hanging and the book creating a 3-dimensional shape. And these are some sequences of the installation. And seeing the front and the back of the panel, which is, I think, what's really valuable about this Koza work. And it's two-dimensional. I mean, you can see it from both sides, and it's interesting. And this is what I like the most about this project, is the overlap of all the panels. It's the book panels, front and back, and then these other thoughts that happen simultaneously. So these sort of close-ups, overlappers, to me, the favorite part of this work. So you're really looking at a fragmentation of things that become their own item. And this brings me to the future, that the book was my past, the panels were my present, and the future becomes the story told, the room inhabited, the energy generated between two narratives shown in video form. The background, the Gallego lullaby that my grandfather used to sing to me. So if I can, I think I need to share screen again, Dorothy, to show the video.
Yes.
Okay, but hold on. There we go.
Yeah. Very good.
Do you see it now?
Yes.
You see the video?
Yes, we do.
Okay. So I'm gonna, oh, it started. Can you hear it? I don't hear it.
Now we hear it.
Okay.
Virgen de Guadalupe cantaba para Ribeira. Virgen de Guadalupe cantaba para Ribeira. Descatien y apolare para una riancheira. Descatien y apolare para una riancheira. Ondinias ven, ondinias ven, ondinias ven y no te vayas riancheira, que te vas a enamorar.
7 bloods comprise my DNA. This magical double helix links scattered information and moments in history, some so far removed to be meaningless in my current life, yet telling of a past that makes me who I am. Cuba and Spain are part of my immediate makeup, but Africa, Ireland, France would warrant made-up tales of long migratory journeys once undertaken. These journeys by men, by women, may tell stories of necessity, love, adventure, and courage that somehow should color my current life, one which is cushioned in love and support and comfort. Is all that just to tell my current story? Are these 7 bloods all that I'm leaving behind? Having migrated in this lifetime to 2 additional countries from this inherited background enhances the complexity, or perhaps the common ground that connects us all. This is my humble tribute to my forebears, with wonder, gratitude, and admiration. May their energy continue to flow through my children and future generations. 7 bloods, 6 countries, 7 tongues, a collection of ancestral spirit and resettlement throughout 3 continents, 9 seas, and 1 connecting ocean.
Virgen de Guadalupe cantaba para Ribeira. Virgen de Guadalupe cantaba para Ribeira. Descatien y apalare para una riancheira. Descatien y apalare para una riancheira. Ondinia Sven, ondinia Sven, ondinia Sven yeneva. No te vayas riancheira, que te vas a enamorar. Virgen de Guadalupe cantaba para Riancho. Virgen de Guadalupe cantaba para Riancho. A barquinha que a trocha era del pau del arancho. A barquinha que a trocha era del pau del arancho. Ondinia Svenien, ondinia Svenien, ondinia Svenien eva. No te vayas riancheira, que te vas a marear.
That is it. Did it. I can't hear you. Hold on.
Annabelle, it's amazing. Have you had a chance to look into the chat? There is
No, I haven't.
Okay, yeah, I thought so, but everyone is saying congratulations. It's been amazing. We do have one question. Dr. Nan wants to know. Dr. Nan says, okay, let me look for it. Annabelle, your work is so incredible. What pigment or color did you use to produce the gorgeous teals that play a large role in these pieces?
The teal color is, it's a bister ink. It's a bister pigment.
Mm,
I think, but it has some browns in it. So I am all over the place. I never have it's a base of bister ink, but it had golden acrylics that were more brown to balance the color. And so I use a little bit of everything. I've used oil paint, acrylic paints, acrylic inks, pigments, and sometimes they work, sometimes they don't, but they all sort of work together.
wonderful. Okay, I don't see any other questions, just a lot of comments and congrats. I wanted to ask you, Annabelle, about the, working at scale, because, of course, a lot of calligraphers are used to working with small scale. So when you scale up, it's a totally different kind of consideration, right? Like in terms of your tools, in terms of the space in which you need to work, the distance you must have to see, how everything is fitting together. Do you have something to say about that?
Yeah, it's really cumbersome. to work at a larger scale. And as you saw how crowded and contorted my office is, it's, you know, to bring these 11 of these panels, they don't fit in my office. So I just go outside, come inside, go upstairs, go, you know, go all over the place trying to visualize how this comes together. Something about working at a large scale, there's something that happens to me when I use the whole arm to do something that engages a different part of the brain for me. And I just love it. So there's something that is, you know, it gets like more stuff out of my soul or out of my, you know, out of me. So I'm drawn to that because of it. It's sort of harder to control. You have to sort of surrender to the process. And I find that it's scary, but it's really fun. It's, you know, it's just paper. So if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. It's, you know, it's a monetary investment or a time investment, but it's not. And I'm not really very patient to do meticulous stuff. You know, I can do it for a little bit and then I lose interest and I just move on to something else. So it's been therapeutic to me to find this way of expression.
Yeah.
The book was combining both because I wanted that it became a monster. It's, you know, it's hard to lay it by itself. I mean, once it's closed, it's little, but when it's open, it's not. And then when it's three-dimensional, sometimes it folds, sometimes it doesn't. And, you know, so it has a life of its own. So it's challenging to increase that, make that jump on scale, but it's really, really fun.
Yeah. So the brushes with which you work, they will be like huge.
Yeah, I have this fabulous collection of brushes. There's this particular brush that is super soft, and I love using it to paint the back of the panels because actually I can use it even sideways, and it's like, and it's I wish you could feel how soft it is. And so I have this in every size. It's not as good for writing. When I'm writing, I need something a little stiffer because you want your lines to be a little more crisp. But so I have a huge collection of brushes. I just got me this beautiful brush in Italy.
Oh,
I don't know how many inches that is. Probably 4 inches. But there's something really satisfying about working like that.
yeah, I can
So,
imagine.
and then the collaging allows you to do, you know, smaller scale stuff. And then you can always go back with pen and ink to write, you know, the smaller things. But there's something liberating about just letting it go and playing.
Yeah, I can certainly feel the energy in the pieces. I mean, the flow and the energy is beautiful. Okay, Talks has a question. So
Hi,
go for it.
hi, Annabel. Tuk Sojo here from Australia. Thank you for that presentation. That was amazing. My question was similar to Dorothy's in terms of scale. Did you, because again, looking at that, you've mentioned your architecture background. Was that working in size and scale something that was more comfortable to you as a result of having a background in architecture, or was it something that you thought when you started calligraphy, you just wanted to work big already? How did you get from, because again, most of us, for me, it's like A4, you know, A3 is like, oh my God, wow, this is amazingly big. So seeing some of your panels and going like, you need a whole room or a floor to do that in. Did you start heading off in that size, or did you just gradually decide you needed bigger brushes?
No, I didn't start that way. This was, as I said, we took a Kozo class last year with Brody and online, and it was totally overwhelming. It was, you know, it's like, oh my God, that's a really large piece of paper. What do you do? How do you fill it up? But as I said, it just, once you start doing this arm movement, it engages a totally different part of your brain. And it's like you just take off. So it probably has to do with my architectural background that has made me comfortable with it, that I see, you know, that I perceive things in spatial relationship more than flat. And that scale allows it to become more obvious. But none of that was intentional. It just sort of developed. But I need a bigger, I'd love to have a barn. That's on my wish list so I can work comfortably. Because right now I just take over my husband's space. We share a small office with a table in the middle. And I said, okay, the table's mine for the next 2 months. And you need the panels, you need to lay them flat when you're writing. But then when you paint vertically. And I use a little workbench that it's not an expensive thing, and it just holds the canvas or the stretcher between two horizontal surfaces, and you paint on the back of it. And so it's, this back and forth, it's not linear, and it's not linear at all. It's just but it's incredibly fun. So if he ever offers that Kozo class again, I would recommend it to everybody because it's wonderful.
Thank you. That's great. But tomorrow you will have something to share with us about it, right?
Tomorrow I'm going to share the collage technique made into a scroll. And I'm going a little more, it starts with a Kozo piece and then you cut it in half and then it eventually becomes a scroll, but it's a similar collaging techniques into similar to today, it just turned into something else.
Right. So I have another question, and this project, it's very multi-layered, it's very complex. Is this like the biggest installation work that you've done to date?
Yes, I did a similar smaller installation last year in which these panels became a labyrinth. And it was about taking a journey and the apprehension we have before we embark something new. And so it was the idea of the overlapping panels. And it was also a result of a class in a Brody class, and he was expecting us to do smaller posters. And I just went to Kozo. It was the only one, I think, in the class that did that. And it sort of resonates with me. And maybe as I was saying, it may have to do with my architectural background. They sort of become of places you inhabit or moments you inhabit.
Yeah.
But yeah, this one is the biggest I've done. And I don't know how much further I can go because I would need a bigger space.
An airport hangar next.
Yeah.
There were a lot of comments, Annabelle, about how your ideas married to the structure, the concepts, so I think that this is something that is very beautiful to see, that you're not just creating pieces, but there was so much thought that went behind it. It was so conceptual. And then the way that you architecturally tied everything together, it was just amazing, very beautiful. I just loved it. Yeah.
Well, thank you. And that's thanks to you, Dorothy, for making us allocate this large piece of time to one project, because it allows you to really go in depth into places and things you want to explore.
I remember Andrea was like, we meet with the mentors every month, and then to update one another, and then she would always tell us, Annabelle is ready. She's got pieces and she cannot stop.
I know. It's like, yeah. Now, as I said, I thought it was going to be 3 pieces, and then they just kept coming. And and it's fun. It's fun to let that happen. It's just another part of your soul takes over, and it's like, oh, let's do some more.
So was there a point at which how did you and Andrea intersect in terms of like her mentorship and her guidance? Because you were like going for it, you were flourishing and all that. And at some point she had to tell you, hey, we got to exhibit, let's reel it back. Was it something like that?
Absolutely, yes. Especially in the book, it's just the layout of the books and keep adding columns and rows. It's like, okay, where do you stop? And she said, just stop it. Stop thinking about it. Just start assembling and see where that leads. And so she was really good at it. She would let us, and once you see all of our work, all 3 of us did something completely different. starting from the same premise. And she was good at reining us into, okay, this is really not working, or this, why don't you think of this, or why don't you commit to that? And so that was it. And it was, as I said, it was wonderful for me to be able to just go with it for such a long time.
Yeah. Okay, wait, who is this person that is sharing a Zoom screen?
Oh, I don't know. Oh, I see that.
Yeah.
Sorry, this is me. I must have clicked on something that I
Yes.
didn't want to click.
Okay, yeah.
I'm not used to doing that.
It's fine. No worries, no worries. We're all good. So anybody else have questions for Annabel? I'm sure you are dying to ask her a bunch of things. There are no silly questions, please. And or you want to give a comment, then please also feel free to comment. Actually, I would like to hear from Anne. Anne, are you there? Because, Anne also works dimensionally, and I think that she had some perspective if she's there. Anne? Okay, maybe she's not there.
She's not. Dorothy, how do you save the chat? I forget how to, because I'd like to read the comments.
Yes, I will save the chat and I will send it to you. You need to
Okay.
read the comments. They're really awesome. So, well, we don't have any. Yeah, sorry.
I'd like to make a comment.
Yes, please. I
So
cannot
I just,
see where you are.
Susan Clark.
Sorry, I'm going to remove the spotlight so I can see everyone because I do not know who is making the comment. Can you carry on speaking?
Sure. My name is Susan Clark.
Oh, yes, Susan. Hi.
I just wanted to give Annabelle my utmost congratulations to a project that I've seen her work so hard on, and I've just watched her evolve as an artist. And I have to say, it's really been one of the most magical journeys that I've ever witnessed. And I feel passionate about stories, and I'm so glad that she was able to share her story so eloquently with everybody and really just implement every little process that she did to make this piece come alive was just amazing. And I'm, from the bottom of my heart, I'm so proud of you.
Thank you, Susan. You put this in my universe. You made this happen with your willingness. So thank you. Thank you.
Wow.
Congratulations, and may you prosper in every way, and may you share your art with the world. It's just so magical.
Thank you. That was heartfelt. Thank you, Susan. Yeah.
I would like to make a comment too, if possible.
Yes.
Hello. So I'm Irene. I was on the same mentorship group than Annabel, and it was a true privilege really to follow the work over the past 8 months and 9 months that we spent together. And I really loved the thinking process she had. We exchanged a lot. And at the beginning, we all were like in the thinking process, and we were all going in different directions. And it was so inspiring. And I have to say, it was a real privilege because, yes, she's so inspiring and so impressive. And I learned so much from her as well. I mean, I learned a lot from Andrea, who really managed to let's say, find our individual strengths and to put us and to direct us in these in our individual directions. But Annabel was always an inspiration, and she had also, like, the comments she made on my work and Amaki's work and so on were always pushing us further too. So thank you very much.
Thank you, and it was fabulous sharing this with you.
Thank
and
you.
I would like to congratulate Annabelle as well. It's Julie.
Hey,
Annabelle,
thank you.
You're amazing, and it's been so much fun to watch you grow and see you prosper as an artist. So congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for participating in this and for coming online to support me. I was totally ignoring this part of my screen because I was too nervous. I'm still sort of nervous, but I'm really humbled by all your support, and I thank you for it.
Thank
Nice.
you. Marina wants to say something, I think.
Marina.
Yeah,
Marina, yes.
I just want to share something that I learned from Kash Tanahashi. And this is a very short quote, but I think it applies very much to you, Annabelle. And this is what it says. The quality of the line is what matters most. How deep, strong, or honest it is. It doesn't matter how good or unusual it looks. You can't hide in a line. You are there, whatever line you draw, and you will stay there, even when you go somewhere else.
Mm,
If your personality is interesting enough, the line will be interesting. To do this, you have to be fearless. You
Wow.
were fearless.
wow.
Thank you,
Before-
Marina. Beautiful words.
Yeah, amazing.
It's
Those are
only
Kash
paper.
Tanahashi's.
Beautiful. Can you? I'll
Well,
ask
but you
for
had
it.
to be fearless to do all the things you did and to go for it and to reach the end. And this is just the beginning. It's not the end. It's your beginning.
It was
as
a
an
lot of
artist.
fun. It was really fun. It was, it's great to let it, it's cathartic to let it all come out.
Oh, yes. Yes, it is.
Thank you, Marina. And thank
So,
you
thank
for all
you.
your guidance and your friendship through all this.
You're very welcome. It's an honor.
Can I finally say, can I say something?
Yes,
Can you hear?
yes.
Okay, so I was Annabelle's business partner for 30 years.
Wow.
And I've known Annabelle since we were in our early 20s.
Pilates.
And I think Annabelle has finally found her passion and her calling. And I've watched her we went through our yoga journey together, went through architecture school together, went through life together, went through heartache together. And I've never seen her work blossom as much until she found calligraphy. And I honor you.
Thank you, Patty.
Wow.
Amazing.
Amazing. Amazing. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Are you the one who inspires her to be neat?
Yes, she is.
You know what? I have to say something. I needed to retire for certain reasons. She was really mad at me, but I think it was the push and the impetus that brought her to become who she is as a calligrapher, because then she had the time.
We have to thank you.
Thank you,
myself.
Patty.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Oh, I found Julie. I finally found you on the screen. I'm sorry. You were saying something just now and I could not picture you on the screen, Julie.
Oh, that's okay. I just congratulated Annabelle. I'm good. It was a beautiful presentation, Annabelle. I'm so proud of you. And I agree with your friend that you just have blossomed into this incredible calligraphic artist period. But yeah, so proud of you. Well done, girl.
Thank
Amazing.
you. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. That is so awesome. Feeling the love,
Yay.
Annabelle. Feel the love in the room.
Yeah, I feel the love. I really do. Thank you, everybody, for being here.
It's amazing. We're all very excited for Annabelle. We're looking forward to what other work she's going to produce, yeah? So, well, we've come to the end of the hour. I'm going to stop the recording.